Trinidad is a boat sailing on the earth.
Go sail on it.
Oh Lord, I
Go sail on it.
whether it fast or slow, wheresoever it goes,
I go in with it.
tell them
I go in with it.
I go sail when the tide is slack. I go sail when the tide is near. If she going to hell and back, I go make the trip. I'm bound to make the trip.
I'm sailing with the boat, sink or float. I'm sailing with the boat. I'm sailing with the boat, sink or float. I'm sailing with the boat.
Through hurricane and storm, hell or high water come, and when she needs a push, I'm going to push like bush. If Trinidad is a boat,
I go sail on it, sink or float.
I have under scrutiny who plotting mutiny,
And I'm watching them, I say I'm watching them.
who giving the captain lip, and all who abandon ship.
And I'm marking them, I say I'm marking them.
Castaways, cheap and free passage, castaways with excess baggage, crimson pirates moving in to kill, but are sailing still. I say are sailing still.
I'm sailing with the boat, sink or float. I'm sailing with the boat. I'm sailing with the boat, sink or float. I'm sailing with the boat.
Through hurricane and storm, hell or high water come, and when she needs a push, I'm going to push like push. If Trinidad is a boat,
I go sail on it, sink or float.
I am a sailor by birth, calypso in the throat.
And I'm sailing on, I say I'm sailing on.
Trinbago is my tag, white and black is my flag.
And I'm moving on, I say I'm moving on.
It is right that I be on board, for in spite of the small reward, as she hastens to her destiny, she ain't leaving me, no how she leaving me.
I'm sailing with the boat, sink or float. I'm sailing with the boat. I'm sailing with the boat, sink or float. I'm sailing with the boat.
Through hurricane and storm, hell or high water come, and when she needs a push, I'm going to push like bush. If Trinidad is a boat,
I go sail on it, sink or float.
pessimistic who think soca boat going to sink.
Tell them think again,
I say tell them
think again.
and all who cherish the hope anchor run out the road.
Tell them hope again,
I say tell them
hope again.
I go I go push like push.
I'm sailing with the boat, sink or float. I'm sailing with the boat. I'm sailing with the boat, sink or float. I'm sailing with the boat.
Through hurricane and storm, hell or high water come, and when she needs a push, I'm going to push like push. If Trinidad is a boat,
I go sail on it, sink or float.
up under scrutiny, who plotting mutiny, and I'm watching them. I say I'm watching them. Who giving the captain lip, and all who abandon ship, and I'm marking them. I say I'm marking them. Stowaways, deep in free passage, castaways with excess baggage, crimson pirates moving in to kill, but I'm sailing still. I say I'm sailing still. I'm sailing with the boat, sink or float. I'm sailing with the boat. I'm sailing with the boat, sink or float. I'm sailing with the boat. Through hurry, high water come, and when she needs a push, I'm going to push like push. If Trinidad is a boat, I go sail on it, sink or float. I am a sailor by birth, calypso in my throat, and I'm sailing on. I say I'm sailing on.
Lennox Smith.
Trinidad is my tag, white and black is my flag, and I'm moving on. I say I'm moving on.
And I speak to you
It is
now.
right
When we came in the
that I be
government, we
on
met
board,
the highway to
for in
stop.
spite of the
Because the
small
highway to
reward, as she
ended up
hastens to her
as a
destiny.
highway.
She ain't leaving me, know how she leaving me. I'm sailing with the boat, sink or float. I'm sailing with the boat. I'm sailing with the boat, sink or float. I'm sailing with the boat. Through hurricane and storm, hell or high water,
The main project
and
is
when she needs a push,
The UNC was building the San Fernando to Penal Highway. You know.
is a boat.
It started as the point for the highway.
Sink
But
or
look at that, the
float.
first leg of the highway was called Panda to Davy. And then it continued to Penal. It would almost finish the Penal, you know. After that, they would have stopped, they would have forget you.
I am very, very happy this evening to participate in the opening of this interchange. Because once we open the Golconda to Davy leg of the highway, the interchange produced on evenings, mornings, right here, tremendous traffic bottling. So you have to get onto this piece of Golconda going to Davy. In a few minutes, we'll be down in Davy. And with me living parallel on the Philippine side, I'll be home. I'm spending more time at home. And I'm very grateful for this leg of the highway, because when I finish working for this way, no matter how late it is, because I know that I can get home in a shorter space time, I do try to spend more time at home after work with my family. Indeed, I saw a blog today saying that I have now set up a cabinet meeting room in South, because I don't want to take a long drive into
I'm
Boston.
going to push like push. If Trinidad, oh, I go sail on it, sink or float.
It's plenty pressure. We have to suffer. And you will do nothing better. Rowley really have to go. Oh, so Rowley really have to go. Oh, Rowley really have to go. some action. We living in fear, it's too much to bear. We living in fear, it's too much to bear. And the PNM don't really care. Rowley really have to go. Oh, to Rowley really have to go.
Yes, indeed. Pleasant good night to all and sundry. It is, yes, another edition of the corridor transformation. Remember that, of course, since it is ultimate in sabbatal, if you want to call it that, or in recess, if you want to call it that, or in temporary, I will not be, of course, on tomorrow night. It's my night off, but certainly Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday again. And of course, on a Sunday,
Lennox Smith,
we are on
PNM
twice.
has shamed TT, elections now.
We are on
Smith,
twice.
PNM has shamed TT, elections now.
We are on twice. On Sunday, from 8 in the morning, Dr. Khalid and myself, yes, he will be there. It was an aberration that he wasn't there last Sunday, but that was due to circumstances beyond our mutual and, should I say, between us control. But he will be there on Sunday, and then of course Sunday night from 8 to 10, I'll be there once again as per usual. Why? It's very simple. It is not about a URP 10 days, as of course those who would prefer to defend the indefensible and be dishonest with themselves and say that they are talk show hosts and rooting for something that is evil, diabolical, wicked. They to be in a propensity to watch an administration and a prime minister like Rowley and try to defend that, believing that somehow, I don't know if they believe that they can reverse or control or assist in the rehabilitation of something that is not rehabilitative. You know what I say? I say that they are pursuing a course of action for something to rehabilitate that is not rehabilitative. And that is how the reality is. But they are going to, of course, pursue that course of action. We accept that. And it may be just as Rowley and they hitch themselves to the wagon of the PNM. Not that they have built anything, not that they have created anything, not that they have introduced anything. I'm talking about Rowley, Hines, Ibsbert, Stuart Young, Penelope Beckles, the Minister, of course, of Housing today, Dias Singh, Laimore, Al-Wari, all of them. Yes, Robinson Regis, yes. And indeed, I could extend it, of course, to the Parliament in both houses. And Elijah George, and of course, her husband at Paria, and all of those who are part of the kitchen cabinet that are part and parcel of the state apparatus in the form of state agencies, state or government state enterprises that this government would have appointed on the basis of their warped sense of political patronage. And I have been the first to accept and agree that political patronage has a place in the Westminster system, and therefore the democracy that we have inherited. I have no difficulty, and we execute. I have no difficulty with that, because it will be far-fetched and unreasonable and if not unjust to ask Biden to keep all of Trump's ministers and of course officials in his administration. It's the same way it will be unhealthy, dangerous and unfair to have asked Rowley to keep those major players that have political significant or held political significant offices in the Kamala Prasad Bissessa administration. Just as how with his madness as far as the OAS contract, the extension of the highway from 2.14 from the Bay to somehow post facto, after the fact, and when the Kamala Prasad Bissessa administration is out of office, to say that they should have done this and should have done that. Hogwash, haul your tail. Because of course, why is he here? We were saying do not interfere with property tax. Do not interfere. In fact, he told us that. Do not interfere with subsidy. He said he wouldn't do it either. He told us that. Along Petrotrin. And in fact, he said that he will not close down Petrotrin. We know what the facts are. So let's not waste time. But he cannot have his cake and eat it. He was not the Prime Minister under Kamala Prasad Bissessa's or UNC administration to generate a clear distinction. He was not. And therefore, you're out of place. You're fast. And I'm being generous here when I say that you were forward, disrespectful, dishonest, dishonorable, to impose yourself in a nostalgic way to say that Kamala should have done this, meaning that in the case of that highway, that she should have borrowed the money for projects like these, and suggesting the man has no sense of reasoning and of course respect for people who have better ideas than him and who have been more productive than him and who have produced more than him. Only last night we talked about over 83 to 130 wage settlements. When he came in 2015, he balling for only one. The monies that were outstanding to the public servants haven't been negotiated under the Kamala Prasad Bissessa administration by the time she had to demit office under, of course, as we know now, a general position, a general sequence of events that in itself requires some kind of investigation, criminal as well as not the run-of-the-mill inquiry, not the run-of-the-mill inquiry, because it is too orchestrated, it is too deliberate and designed to, of course, undermine our democracy. And because it has treasonous implication, the highest evil that anybody could commit in Trinidad and Tobago and in any country, treason. It has trust implication. You go into the parliament with fake pieces of paper and say that a prime minister and others are dastard and evil conduct and act. Nobody will take away the notion that that is treason, and Rowley is a treason or a treasonous individual, quite apart from being a blasted pedophile and a rapist. Quite apart from that. Quite apart from that, people. So we understand, and because the Kamala Prasad Bissessa administration between 2010 and 2015 has been so damn productive and have, of course, taken industry and industriousness and the ability, of course, to work hard and to deliver to the people. These indolents, these lazy son of a guns were prepared to scuttle, to maliciously malign, and to, of course, render null and void and of no effect, because they themselves are the epitome, are the quintessential engage in activities that are purely and unadulteratedly opportunistic. They are, yes, parasites, political parasites, and total and absolute cobos who will pick opportunistically at political skeleton for whatever modicum or potpourri of flesh that may still be on such a carcass, political carcass. These Kobos, led by Chief Kobo, King Kobo, Rowley. Yes, indeed. And so it is appropriate that we do not lose sight of the fact that this has happened.
Since you take over as Prime Minister, it's plenty pressure. We have to suffer, and you will do nothing better. Rowley really have to go. Oh, so Rowley really have to go. Oh, Rowley really have to go. Since you come in power, you is a big failure. Collapse the economy and it do nothing for we. What you have to show, we don't really know. What you have to show. Sorry, Trinidad and Tobago, but Rowley really have to go. Oh, so Rowley really have to go. Oh, so Rowley really have to go.
Yes, indeed. Rowley us players to the detriment of Trinidad and the Tobago. But I want, of course, to start appropriately, lest I be accused of what is considered to be a lack of etiquette, a lack of manners, in other words. So, pleasant good night to all and sundry. Once again, East, West, North, South, Central, and Trinidad. Our friends in Tobago, and wherever you are, streaming on the World Wide Web, a pleasant good day to you. Don't forget, share. Don't forget, like. Don't forget, friends, family, enemies. Let them know the next stage of our advancement inexorably is to communicate with world leaders to highlight as to what is happening here in Trinidad. I want to tell you as well, we will be going, of course, on TikTok as well as, of course, Twitter, because many of the major world leaders, particularly in the G20 and of course G7 countries, they like to, of course, tweet, as you saw Donald Trump will do on a daily basis. So we have to go there too, because we want, of course, not only to make certain that we encircle them with, of course, information that is coming from one source, and that is, of course, the corridor transformation, in order to highlight, of course, the iniquities that this administration has, of course, imposed on the country over the last 8 years and counting. He Rowley must not get away as how we got away in Tobago with realism. So he thinks. If only we are able to expose it, we will have done ourselves justice for this despicable specimen of not only inhumanity, but a speck of protoplasm that ought to be part of the stillbirth placenta, rather than, of course, being here to torture, torment, and of course generate the kind of evil and daunting, unprecedented. But of course, there are always in the midst of a storm, they call it an eye, where there's a calm. And in the desert, there's always, of course, an oasis, a place where you have a body of water, so as to quench thirst if, well, when that becomes a necessity. So I want to say, belatedly, I want to thank Kamla Prasad Bisesa for inviting me, sending by way of emails an invitation to her annual Diwali celebrations in her constituency, which was held on Tuesday. So I want to say thanks. Of course, I did not attend. I was here with you. But of course, I thought it was important, of course, to generate my appreciation. But I've seen, apparently, we have lost it. So let me, of course, say thanks for the invitation that was sent from Kamla Prasad Bisesa to, of course, yours truly, inviting me to that exercise. Let me just, of course, put up for you what the invitation said, so that you have an appreciation as to what went on in terms of the invitation itself. Let me make sure I had it here. I had it here. I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing it on the. All right. I'm not seeing it. I probably took it off by. I probably took it off by accident. But of course, this is the invitation. This is the invitation that was sent. Let me make sure that you have an appreciation of it. At least it's not large enough on the screen for me to visually read what is there. But of course, I thought I should put in the words or the lettering, and then I would read it from a different program of that is not in the system. Let me see if quickly I can of course get it, so that you have an idea as to what was said in that invitation. I think it's worthy of reading, simply because it's something that I never expected, and I thought that why that may be so, the fact that they were able to, of course, identify me to be invited, I think is a very significant development and a recognition of the work that is being done. That is how I see it. So I want to make certain that I get the words so that we can. Right, let me use this instead. Then yes, I'll use this. And of course, this is what it says.
From Kamla Prasad Bisesa, date Thursday, November 2nd, 2023 at 8. From Kamla Prasad Bisesa, date Thursday, November 2nd, 2023 at 8:15 a.m. Subject: Cypria Constituency 2023 Diwali Invitation. Diwali has been and continues to be one of the many highlights on our nation's annual calendar of signature events. You and your family are invited to our 26th annual Diwali celebration on Tuesday, November 7th, at my constituency office, Penal Junction, Penal. See details in the attached invitation. We look forward to seeing you all. May the blessings of the Almighty continue to be with you and yours always. Kamla Prasad Bisesa SC, MP. Leader of the Opposition.
Yes, indeed. I thought that was something that is worthy of taking note of and to share with you, so that I want you to be emboldened. I want you to understand that when you do good, good will follow you. And conversely, when you do bad, bad will follow you as well. There is no evil act that goes unpunished. And while, of course, it may appear frustrating, as some would, of course, express themselves every morning on the ground report, and sometimes, of course, on the corridor transformation, but I must admit that that is very few and far and in between. But as human beings, you are going to get frustrated. But as I've always said, if you have a tree to climb and it's a ladder you have to use, then standing at the ground and looking at the sky, wondering how you will get up there, well, you simply have to try. And of course, this is what it is all about, because the human spirit cannot be muzzled. The human spirit cannot be clamped down. The human spirit must be one that says we have a survivability, and we have, of course, a knack for ensuring that the human being reach the most fertile of circumstance. And what we know for sure, where there are inhibitants, where there are hurdles, where there are evil lurking in every corner to try to deprive the masses from that development, from that ultimate goal, we must respond. We must be vehemently resilient and vehemently courageous and vehemently rejectful of such escapades and such journeys and such travels, and the PNM have displayed over the last 8 years. Let us not waste time with that. But before, of course, I go to the subject matter that I want to share with you tonight, I want to remind, because we will start that series maybe on Saturday or Sunday, that this PNM as an entity, as a political organization, have done too much hurt and engender pain, ache, and agony by their policies, programs, attitude, and deceptions. And I say so because I want to make certain that it is located in every single listener, viewer, as well as those who will, of course, whilst they are not there now, but of course will make themselves or avail themselves of the live afterwards, as so many have indicated that is what because they may have some other things to do, or the live will go too late, as the case may be, so they want at their convenience and the comfort. But that is what the technology affords one, the technology of convenience. Yes, the opportunity of convenience. So I have no difficulty whether you are there now or you have availed yourselves of the material sometime later.
2nd, 2023 at 8:15 a.m. Subject, Cypriot Constituency 2023 to Rowley Invitation. Diwali has been and continues to be one of the many highlights on our nation's annual calendar of signature
Listen to Kamala again.
You and your family are invited to our 26th annual Diwali celebration on Tuesday, November 7th, at my constituency office, Penal Junction, Penal. We look forward to seeing you all. May the blessings of the Almighty continue to be with you and yours always. Kamla Prasad Bisesar SC, MP. Leader of the Opposition.
So, I didn't do anything, It just came on just so, but it is divine intervention. And God knows that I'm speaking the truth in terms of the invitation and in terms of my appreciation. So the system itself probably sensed that the technology is such, they call it what? AI, artificial intelligence, and they probably figure out that I'm so appreciative of that invitation by, of course, by the technology as well, by email, that it decided on its own volition to, of course, repeat that. Well, I've just taken it off to make certain that the voice to text app does not find itself in the middle of our conversation and the delivery tonight. But I was making the point that it was not by accident last night I identified 5 areas of supreme focus for the destruction of Trinidad and Tobago based on the greed of successive PNM administration, particularly those after the demise of the, let's say, the old guards, consequential of the 1986 general elections when the PNM was decimated to the tree. And I say so to Robertine, in those who have some kind of notion that somehow there's something sacrosanct about the PNM and that they can't lose elections, and that because of all of the shenanigans that they would engage in, including of course criminal behavior and of course anti-democratic stance and of course rule of law, as well as interfere with independent institutions and disrespect the separation of powers. Disrespect the separation of powers. Evil could never prevail over good. And I don't have to regurgitate or reiterate the fact that history is replete with instances like that. And of course the ultimate can be Hitler, where is he today? And his Nazi, evil, diabolical, genocidal, yes, and barbaric conduct for people who are supposed to be intelligent. So I want to tell the intelligentsia in Trinidad and Tobago, you are disappointed. You know what I say? I said the intelligentsia of Trinidad and Tobago, you are disappointing to have a man like Rowley, you know, running roughshod around the people, and you know full well that of course your shot could be called anytime in terms of a home invasion, and yet still you see Dr. Rowley say, do, act, spend, and the situation is getting worse and worse, and you're still in silence, or you're waiting of course for the elections. I just hope so. If the elections you're waiting on, well then of course I could be understanding of that. But that does not mean, if you are waiting for the elections, it does not mean that you will not lend your voice to make certain that everybody is on the right page, is on the same page. Everybody must be on the same page. And there's too much to-ing and fro-ing, too much reciprocity in terms of people accepting the reality and in the same breath not accepting it. That is too disconcerting. No, you want a smooth surface. You want a smooth, consistent surface. You want a unanimity of voices, because the enemy of Trinidad and Tobago is clear, including the intelligentsia, and you cannot believe that Dr. Rowley is part of the intelligentsia or part of the 1%, and don't understand that he is the most dangerous and the most destructive and the most hated and the most wicked and the most incompetent prime minister that ever occupied the office of prime minister, because I cannot say the noble office for him. I have to say he has turned the office of prime minister to the point of being ignoble. Ignoble. He has corrupted the office of prime minister. He has savagely dismantled the standing and the supreme and the pedestal that one would see in the office of prime minister, and that therefore anyone holding the office must be a paragon of virtue, at least publicly. They must be almost impeccable in terms of their consciousness that people are seeing them as a role model and as one that is a motivator and one that projects self-esteem onto the population, and I'm talking the population here across the demographics, not the cultural, religious, ethnic, and station in life, or your vocation. No, not just that. That is what the principle of being a prime minister in the West fit in the shoes of. What we know for sure is that the pride and dignity that they carry the office and their position, no young person could say that they don't want to be a prime minister. Trinidad and Tobago, in the existential situation in Trinidad and Tobago, when one watch at that ugly, a face that only a mother could love, with a bald head that clearly he hates what he sees in the mirror. He, Rowley, if he allows that turf of hair to grow from his occipital region in the back of his head to both sides of his temporal region, he don't like to see that. He will not wear it proudly as, let's say, Wade Mark or Dr. Gopi Singh. That has not kept them back. But Rowley don't like to see himself on the mornings with that, so he shaves every minute, every artificial. That's a natural bald head, when in fact it's an artificial bald head, because he shaves away that part of the cranium, and indeed to San Fernando. And he said it was in my I focused my cranium on. No, your cranium is a set of bones that form your skull, Rowley. What you're talking about is your brain material, that gray and white matter from color that is housed inside of the cranium. The cranium is the box that holds, the bone box that holds the brain. But of course, it is not unlike him to make these, what I consider to be simplistic statement, and then get on as though he is somehow correct, and would project that to intelligent people who must be pinching themselves and saying, what is stupidness he talking? When he talks about, of course, he dots the T and cross the I's. But when he wants to be mischievous, and he wants to be pernicious, and he wants to be aggressive, and he wants to be, of course, typically dangerous to persons who he considered to be grovelers, who he considered to be persons who are not worthy of his consideration, like what he did to Robert Amar when he went, of course, to the diplomatic center as a journalist and a owner of a media house to, of course, cover the post-cabinet meeting. Mr. Amar was escorted out and certainly seen as a public enemy number one in the context of Rowley's and their narrow perspective and perception. So understand what I'm saying. As far as they're wishful, so that is why I had to condition what I said, as far as they are concerned. And then when he Amar, in his typical style, resilient and recalcitrant, and his contumacy, and he will resist people who he knows, obviously like Rowley and they, who take high office and abuse it, incompetent in it, cannot, of course, deliver that which, with all the reason, throwing pearls to swine. And it's like, of course, in the abundance of water, Rowley and them still thirsty. You get the whole treasury, in other words, and you can't deliver anything significantly on time and with the appreciation overall of the people to feel good. At least, well, Amar said it's going to be war. Of course, when he say war, he isn't threatening the government that he has an army. Obviously, he doesn't mean that. He means that he will do all what is required within his constitutional and legal parameters and rights to resist this time meeting of a legitimate right of a journalist and a media house to be at the diplomatic center, a place that belongs to all of us, not Rowley own. Say that directing it to a journalist that was sitting in the audience, and he's saying that I allow you all to come in here, and I had to talk to my enemies through your device that you have there. I want to know if the man gone stark mad, and that he's at what kind of lunatic we have as Prime Minister. Another appellation, another pseudonym that Rowley is rightfully has earned. The man is a lunatic. He mad. And when, of course, he heard that Mr. Amau said that it's war, he then turned and said that he's a man of peace. You ever say? I said Rowley turned and said he's a man of peace. And when coming from that perspective, if it was that alone, you say, all right, he is conciliatory, or he is, of course, realizing that he might have made a mistake. No. He then went on to spell the peace he talking about. You know what I said Rowley went on to spell the peace that he was talking about. And you know we spell it? P-I-E-C-E. P-I-E-C-E. In the ghetto, a peace, P-I-E-C, is a gun. It's a gun, people. Son of a gun. That son of a gun. And pardon the pun on gun. And pardon the fact that it is being spoken of now. But it demonstrates how terrible and how evil and how reckless, brutal, and total that you have to allow him in, and you know that is a fundamental breach of a fundamental right. The freedom to, of course, in the case of the journalists, report in their own way what transpired. But no, he afraid the questions. He wouldn't invite somebody like me to ask him any question. Just as how he is fearful of Amar. And that's the only reason. These fellas are hollow. They are cowards. And they use office to mask, to generate a facade or a veil, to make them have the ability to stay from aloft and project what they are not. A bunch of fake, pseudo, and we know them for who they are. That is why the corridor transformation, and you and all the people of Trinidad and Tobago, and especially those along the east-west corridor where you do not expect that they are going to delve a serious blow from Diego Martin East, Diego Martin West, Diego Martin Central, Port of Spain South, Laventille, both Laventille East and West. Of course, St. Anne's West, Port of Spain, St. Anne's West, St. Anne's East, and all of the constituencies up the corridor. You have a duty and responsibility to respond appropriately because of the challenge posed, 1, and 2, the detriment. And no human, I don't care what you say, no human being lives in perpetuity to accommodate a people who do them evil. That is self. But I was talking about, of course, the 5 things that I want you to keep in the deep recesses of your minds, because that is what we will be unfolded in the next coming days. Apart from, of course, showing the government how to address crime, yes, we're going to do it. not frightened, saw the problem decades ago and took action. And it was the PNM again that scuttled it. And it is not by accident I'm talking about Gad Christopher's project. That, of course, was another example of the community taking charge, understanding the problem, and therefore finding ways and means creatively and ingeniously to solve it. And so he developed, of course, a homework center, computerized, and people were, of course, utilizing the facility. As soon as they came into government in 2015, and talking about Rowley, of course, Hines and the parliamentary representative for Laventille East, Movant, is Adrian. They closed it down. They closed it down. And so what they've done is further add to the human factor that would gravitate potentially and real to a life of crime and criminality, and adding to the Russian roulette environment in which we exist today, and Rowley and they have not a clue of it, when that was a typical example of the community taking action, recognizing the issue, and therefore coalescing and encouraging young people and motivating them to come and sit down. And when you have that in a community like Laventille, you know that you are doing something right. You know, but when those who ought to know better, for their narrow political agenda and envy of not being able to do that, because not one of them has been able to supplant or to generate a project except parasitically, like, of course, in the case of the Laventille Technology and Continuing Education Center. Notice from time to time Hines taking claim for that, and we just talk about 6 persons graduated. And we decided that listen, we are going to take the bull by the horn and, of course, address this problem of young people not being educated and are not motivated, of course, to carry themselves further and to become, of course, responsible and productive citizens in this country. We didn't envisage 2 and 3 of them. He got to be a consummate ass to talk about 6 persons when to every 6 there is something like 200 to 300 of them out there that requires, of course, the same support, the same assistance that, of course, he will be boasting of 6 about. Yeah, that is how myopic these fellas are, and opportunistic. And incidentally, of course, the Laventille Technology and Continuing Education said looks too thin for him to think that big. It's too thin for him to think that big. In fact, there was a soldier fellow who came to me and he said he see all over Laventille, Hines has put up the slogan with his ugly countenance on it, saying, "Vote Hines for a better mind." Well, it's he to a counter slogan, and it says, "Vote Hines to stay behind." You know what I say? The soldier boy told me that what Hines really means of losers that have commandeered and bulldozed their way to government because of the sympathy and the residual loyalty by the East-West corridor to the PNM. And I'm talking the East-West corridor in a high degree of specificity. I am leaving out, of course, Sangre Grande, and from Arima come right back down to Laventille East. They are doing a disservice to themselves and the rest of the nation when they hang on to something that has lost its way, lost its potency, and lost its relevance, and is absolutely and totally irrelevant to contemporary times. They have demonstrated a kind of policy and program and attitude, and have been able to, of course, at the highest level of the PNM, in terms of the leadership, is a bunch of Neanderthals. You know what I say? I say a bunch of Neanderthals, cavemen. You cannot tell me that you are not a caveman when the first thing you do is take away laptops and books from the people, particularly those. You even put in a program to say, well, there are identifiable poor communities. You don't need to be a rocket scientist or have any statistical data to conclude that. The mere fact that the place is named Laventille, the fact that it's named Dego Martin, the fact that it is named Mount Hope, Silots, Beetham, Chumakak, Africa, Laventille Hill, Sogra Trace, Despelly Crescent, yeah, Nelson Street, Besson Street, Piccadilly Street, George Street, Observatory Street, Bath Street, Belmont Circular, Valley Road, and we could go on and on. You don't need to have any evaluation or any assessment or indeed to even judge. A poor, and you of all people, the PNM that is, must know that, because those are your constituencies for years. The only one that never changed is the Laventille. So I should say the only two, the Laventilles. So therefore, by and large, you should know them. How the hell they are so disappointed? How the hell they are so run down and downtrodden? How the hell that they continue, of course, to be the bane of the society? And I make no bones about that, because that is the pellucid fact. Whenever the police end up holding individuals for home invasion, for example, whether it's in El Socorro or farther south of these communities that are on the east-west corridor, invariably, without exception, either the getaway car or the culprits themselves are held somewhere in Laventille or around Laventille. And when I say Laventille here, I'm talking about Beatles, I'm talking about Nelson Street, etc., because the same socio-economic profile that we consider all of them in that lump, socio-economic and psycho-cultural of that place. Yes, there are pockets, of course, of apparent opulence, yes, and of course middle class standing, but that is far and of course too far and too few to not lump all to be a place where there is a need for extreme attention, and that produces, of course, the criminal elements that roam the rest of the country because of their mobility. They have cars and so on, and they have, of course, communications, cell phones, etc., to communicate. Let us not waste time. To juice a means test to get a laptop in this time. You understand why I say that they are Neanderthals in the first instance, and of course even in this new dispensation, in this budget, pretending that somehow they did us a favor. They're still talking means tests. They hate their own kind, and yet still they see these communities as their vote bank, not to be interfered with, and they will defend with talk but no action, even though they have access to the entire treasury. So the PNM has focused over the years on the commanding heights of the economy to raid, and therefore the Malcolm Jones matter and the gas to liquid fiasco You also have, of course, the fake oil matter connected to that again in the Rowley administration. Whilst the former was in the Manning administration, Rowley being a part, he learned well how to scuttle and how to thief and how to dispossess the country at the highest level and the apex of its economic activity to bring in foreign exchange. They attack that like parasites, like locusts. So Malcolm Jones, the fake oil matter, the closure of Petrotrin, closure of Petrotrin, the mothballing or shutting down of the oil refinery. That's 4. And 5, the Vincent Nelson saga. You may ask the question, why Vincent Nelson is featured in that? Why? Because he was the man who Rowley and them went to give an opinion, a legal opinion, according to Rowley and them. Apart from other excuses that Rowley would have made, like the man is a friend, are talking about, of course, the man who created the disaster for Petrotrin, Malcolm Jones. He gave them the advice to pull out the Malcolm Jones matter from the court when the Kamala Persad-Bissessar administration had put him in court to at least give us some kind of... That's why, because when Rowley came into government now, again, Rowley in government, the same Vincent Nelson gave him a paragraph, say to pull out the matter because the circumstances has changed. Yes, the only change in circumstance is that Rowley and them in office, and they want, of course, to give reprieve and to unmeritoriously and without, of course, judicial examination, to, of course, give their friend, according to Rowley, a free pass, a slap, not even a slap, a free pass, and telling us in our faces that what? That this man who has cost us so much, and today we are reeling from it. I'm talking about Malcolm Jones here. Rowley says his friend, and that they were persecuting, not prosecuting, persecuting him, and the new government will have none of it at our expense. Are you telling me that Rowley and them must not be jailed for taking money under false pretense, claiming to be protecting the public's interests? I don't talk on that matter. But tonight, I need, of course, to demonstrate the overall picture, and therefore the Malcolm Jones matter certainly would be one that we must revisit, because we have all of the information to ensure that at the end of it all, that Rowley and they have no excuse, because all of us know, and that the entire population to recover our monies from Rowley and his bunch of kleptocrats. Let's see how he defended Malcolm Jones. And of course, we will look at it incrementally, including, of course, the advert. I think we started last night, but there is a conclusion. The conclusion of this lesson, I started to talk like a teacher now, but of course, that is what we do. We prepare lessons and we have objectives. And the student must learn at the end of the content material. In this case, of course, you must know the facts about the Malcolm Jones matter and how Rowley betrayed us by taking the matter out of court. An entity that could cause us to be bathing in foreign exchange. I talk about the oil refinery. Having regard, of course, and having a similar impact as a consequence of the Ukraine-Russian conflict. Just as how Heritage was able to get a windfall of 8 billion. Imagine if the oil refinery was up and running. Boy, oh boy. I doubt Rowley would have had the unconscionable bold-facedness to still implement property tax. If the oil refinery was running and getting the voluminous benefits and windfall, and the coffers of Trinidad and Tobago just being swollen to the hilt, and his defense of Malcolm Jones. Let's hear Rowley. It's pathetic.
I appointed a standing committee on energy. And that committee...
Let's start from the beginning.
On the 8th of October, exactly 1 month after the government came into office, I appointed a standing committee on energy. And that committee I took the chairmanship of as Prime Minister. And the committee included the Minister of Finance, the Minister of Energy and Energy Industries, the Minister of Public Utilities, where Powergen and TNTech reside, the Minister of Stuart Young, the Minister of Trade and Industry, Chief Secretary to the House of Assembly of London, who is all you, Mr. Andrew Jupiter, Chairman of Petrotrin, Mr. Jerry Brooks, National Gas Company Chairman, Mr. Keith Serju, Chairman of TNTech, Professor Ken Julian, Mr. Stephen Gardner, Industrial Engineer, the Permanent Secretary Ministry of Energy, and 2 technical advisors of the Ministry of Energy and Energy Industries, along with Mr. Malcolm Jones.
Let's pause there. That's the man, Malcolm Jones. He's deceased now, but it's relevant because his legacy is one of detriment to our children, our children's children, and our economy, and the future of Trinidad and Tobago, particularly if we take God out of our thoughts and become stupefied. Had to be stupefied to revisit Rowley and Day as viable governing and of course ministers and administrators of. But there he is. And notice what Rowley say exactly 1 month after he came in, after the September 7th 2015 general election. Just imagine that. You see, I am saying so not by accident, because it was the Privy Council that observed when a different matter, not connected to whether or not he operated in the public's interest. No, it wasn't that. But the Privy Council had the cause to say, and I'm going to bring it for you. We're not going to get away from that. They said that Al-Rari, who eventually became the Attorney General, and the government was bandying about that they are going to take out of the courts Malcolm Jones's matter that the UNC put there. They was doing it since before the election. And Rowley, of course, in his usual convoluted and 3 and 4 excuses on the same story as to why it started there. And the Privy Council said that was unacceptable. That's a piece of madness. That is a major industry of Trinidad and Tobago. Thousands of persons depend on it for employment, and it is a major revenue earner for Trinidad and Tobago. In other words, it's the commanding heights of the economy. And Dr. Rowley and the government that supplanted Kamala Prasad Mr. Sunday will take it so lightly and so trivial. Privy Council said so.
Former executive chairman of Petrotrin, under whose stewardship that GTL plant came to grief.
Let me hear it again.
Mr. Stephen Gardner, industrial engineer, the permanent Secretary of Finance, the permanent Secretary Minister of Energy, and 2 technical advisors of the Ministry of Energy and Energy Industries, along with Mr. Malcolm Jones, a former executive chairman of Petrotrin, under whose stewardship that GTL plant came to grief.
So he acknowledged that property tax, when he was presenting the manifesto of 2015 of the PNM at the Hyatt for only the big shots, sorry about that, rank and file and you sycophants who stupidly all over the place trying to defend but he don't care about all you. He invited ambassadors and so on to listen to him at Hyatt, and the next day, of course, as an open cesspool, he went up to the savannah where everybody could go. But you weren't at the Hyatt. Well, at the Hyatt, he said that the property tax was a devious tax or something we'll never get. And anybody saying that the PNM under his stewardship would ever bring back that property tax, that dastard tax, that evil tax, that debilitating tax, is the highest level of dishonesty. That is this, of course, a man that is a spontaneous and habitual liar. The man is pathological, as well as he is, of course, mania or mythomania, spontaneous lies. He's sick.
I know that media attention has been placed on the information about Malcolm Jones. I'm sure there's somebody in this press corps that wants to talk about Malcolm Jones. And let me say this, right? There are 2 people in this country who has given the country human service in the energy area, which has put us where we are today in a lot of things that we take for granted. One of those persons is Professor Ken Julian, and the other is Malcolm Jones. These are pioneers. There was one project that went horribly bad. That is not an issue for debate. That is a very clear statement. So when Petrotrin went...
Yeah, he acknowledged it went bad. He acknowledged it went bad. The UNC took the responsible thing in the interest of the people and put Malcolm Jones in court for his lack of due diligence. And he glibly and simplistically, according to the Privy Council, with a paragraph issued by Vincent Nelson at the time, and the law lords were extremely distraught. They were in a state of discombobulation, and they couldn't hide from my interpretation that there's something of a skullduggery nature that has occurred there. There's something unsavory, something untoward, something anti our interests, taxpayers' interests.
Of converting gas to liquids for diesel, but it didn't go right.
Now just imagine that. He said that they tried to get involved in leading technology, gas to liquid, and it didn't go right. Some expression that you will get only in Tobago, I suppose. It didn't go right. But of course, you know that simply put, it means that it failed. That's what that is. But what is significant? What is significant, people? We must note, it did go right. They went to get involved in leading edge technology, but it didn't go right. Well, I see that as a fella, maybe on a Sunday, not sure that the shop or the grocery will be open. You know what I say? I see that as a fella who on a Sunday or a holiday, not sure that the shop will open, or put another way, he believes that the shop will open no matter what. And he take the risk and go down the road. And the shop or grocery is closed. That's what they did. You know what I say? I say that Malcolm Jones and that explanation that Rowley gave is similar to a fella on a holiday or a Sunday. Maybe rice that he might have been short of. And take the walk down the road. And the shop or grocery closed. And he has to come back up the road with nothing. In other words, he take that chance. Or you could take a chance like that. That is what they did. A technology, say, that was unproven. And it did get go right. But it costing us billions of dollars. Billions of dollars. And they did to, of course, OAS as far as that road is concerned to Point Fortin. They make sure that they put up bonds to protect our interests. That's how Rowley was able to go and get it. And in circumstances where they can't argue at all, just give it up. They had to find another mechanism to get back the money. And so they went arbitration in England, which of course is the arrangement that they had with respect to signed with Trinidad and Tobago, or NITCO as the agent for and on behalf of the government of Trinidad and Tobago. Yeah. But Malcolm Jones and them, under Rowley and PNM and Manning in this case, act as though they know usually the shop doesn't open on Sunday, but they believe that it might be open on this Sunday or this holiday, and go down the road in the hot sun and the shop closed, and have to walk back up the road empty-handed. But that is what happened to them. That is what happened. That is investment made. Now I want to show you the other side of what we as citizens expect. They would have handled our business, how they would have business. You see, I like to give this example because it's very poignant, and it is fraught with, or should I say, it is in a high degree of cautiousness and certainty. If you take a cyanide tablet, maybe the size of, let's say, an aspirin. Cyanide, the most lethal poison known to man. One pinhead could kill several people almost instantaneously. So you take a tablet and you put it in a container. And you take 100 aspirins, normal aspirins, you won't do anything, and you put it inside of that container as well. One of the poison tablets you put in there, and you put 100 with it. So 101 tablet is with same color, everything, so you can't distinguish. The poison tablet from the other tablets that you put inside of that container, and you shake it up, and you ask Rowley or you ask Malcolm Jones, but listen, it's 100 to 1 the likelihood that you will take up a tablet that will not harm you. You have to be real sour to take up, of course, that lethally poisonous tablet. And you tell them, look, I shake it up, take out one, and punch in your mouth one time. Yeah, you're right. None of them doing that. It's 100 to 1. None of them doing that. But they engage instead, knowing full well that the shop does be closed during the day or on a Sunday or weekend, but they are convinced that the shop open and gone down the road to come back up the road empty-handed. That is what they did to us. Because if they had studiously considered us, they would have used tablets, the same tablet that members of the Hitler clan, his upper echelons, put in their hide in their teeth and so on. And as soon as they find themselves in problems and that they would have been caught, they simply burst it and that was it. They gone. But they didn't do that. But no, they were reckless. They were brutal. They were insensitive. It's billions of dollars we're talking about. Billions. Making, of course, that what Rowley talking about, even though, of course, it's hogwash, nonsensical and irrational and really obfuscatory and deflectory, deflecting attention away from himself. I'd never see a man sour so. I never see a man so cursed. I never see a man so incompetent. I never see a man so always somebody else to blame and not him. And his position and getting it's false pretense. You should be locked up for fraud. Taking our monies as Prime Minister's salary under false pretense. So I thought I should use that analogy with respect, of course, to how reckless and how simplistic these people utilize our billions of dollars, affecting our young people, those born and those unborn. And we now have to pay through our teeth with respect, of course, to property tax and all kinds of merciless impositions. They have the office, and the office comes with it some legal parameters that they are prepared to exploit and don't care who dead and who live. That is their approach.
For a variety of reasons. But accept that it was a business deal that went bad and Petrotrin tried to recover its position by going to arbitration. It was a deal that went bad in a company which the state owns, and a lot of money was lost.
What was the value of the deal that went bad? Was it 6 billion or 10 billion? What's it number?
I don't have that figure in front of me, but it's a substantial amount of money. I don't know if it's 6 or if it's 10, but I don't think it's anything like that. Malcolm?
No. It didn't go right. It's by itself, unless, of course, you are familiar with the language. And it happens. So you have to be, of course, esoteric. You have to be knowledgeable. But oh God, listen to this man, a big man who said he went to university and boasted the other day about some three professors. Listen to him as he exposed on his thesis to become a doctor. And listen to what he said. He didn't think it was 10. It might have been more. But I think it's any of that. What has he said? I submit to you precious nothing. And not that he doesn't know. He's so steep in lying that he run out a lie.
So when Petrotrin went and tried to become involved in leading edge technology of converting gas to liquids for diesel, but it didn't go right for a variety of reasons. But accept that it was a business deal that went bad and Petrotrin tried to recover its position by going to arbitration. It was a deal that went bad in a company which the state owns, and a lot of money was lost.
What was the value of the deal that went bad? Was it 6 billion or 10 billion? What's the number?
I don't have that figure in front of me, but it's a substantial amount of money. I don't know if it's 6 or if it's 10, but I don't think it's anything like that. Malcolm?
You don't have a 6 or 10, but you don't think you're Prime Minister and you don't know how much money was lost? Trying to lie. And lying doesn't mean actually talking to, it could mean silent as well. You lie by omission. And that's what he tried to do. But that was Amaro. You understand why he afraid Amaro? Because he asked the hard questions. But let us hear him confess ultimately.
Jones is to be held accountable for $1.5 billion in losses. But they disregarded?
Yeah. $1.5 billion. That was what the UNC take him for. That's not the total amount. Much more than that.
Cosmetic project that cost the country and the company billions of dollars.
Oh God, that was disgrace Roger talking about itself because outside of that he wouldn't talk, but of course he was humiliated, disgraced, and rendered, of course. This was one of those because he had no choice.
And our position is quite clear that if they could have removed from the court Mr. Jones's matter, the matters he won in the court, we insist that they also withdraw all of those appeals. So Mr. Jones cannot get special treatment, and the workers of Trinidad certainly would have been two members singled out for a different type of treatment. As a person coming out of our soil, reaching where he has reached, and the skills that he brought over the decades, forget that. And a government set out to persecute him, and they asked this government and the new board to continue the persecution. I beg to differ. Treatment, and the workers of Trinidad certainly would have been two members singled out for a different type of treatment. As a person coming out of our soil, reaching where he has reached, skills that he brought over the decades, forget that. And a government set out to persecute him, and they asked this government and the new board to continue the persecution. I beg to differ.
Well, I want to tell you something. Malcolm Jones got away. Malcolm Jones got away because he died. Kamala Prasad Bissessa will be back in office at maximum 2025. I want to tell you something one time. That the arsonist you just talked there about I give a man my house to build or my house to watchman, and when I come back windows gone, roof gone, and he come telling me that he still want to keep the job. In face with that situation, I know you know what to do, so I'm not going to say what I would do, but it wouldn't be pleasant, obviously. We gave Malcolm Jones a job to do, to of course act in our interests and to of course bring benefits to Trinidad and Tobago. It turns out that he has bring pain, ache, agony, destruction, and monumental and prolific and huge financial loss to us. And Rowley saying that because he bright and he did something in the past, him a blind. And so many Trinbagonians are in distress as a consequence of that failure. Rowley, well, let me tell you something. You will not get away. You and your minions will not get away. We gave you a job that you could do more with less. Well, that is asinine as asinine could be, but let's be more practical and realistic. You said that you're not closing down Petrotrin. You said, of course, that you're not going to do without. You're not going to do away with subsidies on fuel. You said that you will not introduce property tax. We gave you, of course, in addition to that, $5 billion in the Heritage and Civilization Fund, over $10 billion in the reserves, and as further $5 billion in excess liquidities in the banks so as to encourage and motivate businesses. You have failed on every score. Today, you don't even want to tell us how much money is in the reserve. You met 10 billion. You tell I say it is around 4 billion. So you burn up 6 billion in just 8 years. And you went into the Heritage and Civilization Fund, and because of the dividend and or the interest and or the earnings, because of the investment that are made on international stock markets and other instruments across the globe, that it is back to where you met it, 5 point something billion, that nothing has been lost. We want to know that the Heritage and Civilization Fund ought to be where it is and where it is, plus how much money you took out, and that is where the heritage is supposed to be. But more than that, telling us that it's no big thing. But when those international rating agencies, Moody's and S&P, and of course Fitch and Day, and even of course our Caribbean rating agency, see that you had to go on, that fund was for our future generations when things were bad, and you had to go into that. They know things are not well. They know that. So it is not correct to say that it is no big thing. It is a big thing because you had to go into it. You had to go into it. And therefore they are going to be skeptic, and they are going to, of course, be very frugal. They are going to be monitoring Trinidad and Tobago and scrutinizing Trinidad and Tobago's economic development and its plans and programs more than if you did not have to go into it. You're dunderhead. You're dunderhead.
I want to say, first of all, that WGTL program, the construction of a WGTL plant, they went ahead with that. Mr. Malcolm Jones and the board of directors, they went ahead with the construction of that plant despite our advice, strong advice against that. The union advised Mr. Jones and the board of directors that we have done our research, which research pointed to that effort would have been a failed effort from the start. Today, Petrotrin is reeling under relentless pressure, which has to do with Petrotrin's performance as a company. And during the period which this WGTL fiasco took place, it was Mr. Malcolm Jones that led the company. It was Mr. Malcolm Jones, not just WGTL, but the failed ultra-low sulfur diesel project, which had billions of dollars in cost overruns, which also saw the company not being able to complete those projects on time. And so, environmental problems, financial problems, total mismanagement. Mr. Jones, if anything he could boast about is for the failure of Petrotrin. Petrotrin is where it is today in major part because of the failure of the stewardship of Mr. Jones as executive chairman. And I don't know what would have possessed this government to take someone who had failed in a major state enterprise, a critical state enterprise. The record is there to see. So for him to be placed on a cabinet-appointed steering committee on energy is just another farce.
Yeah, that is how arrogant and contemptuous Rowley and his government is. Take the man, having done us that, and put him on a steering committee the first month that they got into government, because that is the partner. Same thing, of course, with AV, but of course in different circumstance. And incidentally, as he was talking there, I forgot there's a sixth issue that we have to deal with in terms of the commanding heights of the economy and the exploitation, and of course the destruction by the PNM attacking that major source of foreign exchange on which we depend. Is our lifeblood, Naikwan. I forget that one. So there's a sixth issue, Naikwan, connected of course to the energy sector, and we are going to look at that series as we of course look, now that we have a greater appreciation and more information. When it was unfolding, it was a bit dissolute. We can now of course present it in a package so that you can understand, and of course argue to those who may be defending the indefensible in a more, you will be able to do so in a more potent and effective way.
He has absolutely nothing to contribute.
But correct me if I'm wrong.
Listen to
Mr. Malcolm was not involved in some advisory capacity on an energy committee of this administration.
Malcolm Jones is a member of I think it's a 16-man committee.
Why? Because the reason I don't mean any disrespect, but if I made a decision that cost my family business $1 billion,
well, understand,
they would run me from there.
With Malcolm Jones,
he can't, sir. He confused. Listen again. Fazil asked him on TV6 A direct question. What you put that man there for? He's a failure. You put him there. Just as the fella who I gave my house to watchman, and I come and meet everything destroyed, like if a tsunami passed through, like if an earthquake, and there was none. And he still want, of course, to be employed with me. I will leave it up to you as to think as to what you will do if you were in that situation. But Rowley and them rewarding people who fail. Rewarding. Give them a big time post on the Energy Committee and listen to why. And Fazil had him stuttering.
For him to be placed on a cabinet appoint energy is just another farce. He has absolutely nothing to contribute.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Is Mr. Malcolm Jones not involved in some advisory capacity on an energy committee of this administration?
Malcolm Jones is a member of I think a 16-man committee.
Why? Because I don't mean any disrespect. But if I made a decision that cost my family business $1 billion,
well, understand.
they would run me from there.
Yes, people. And Rowley should have get up and run out today to try to answer that. But of course, let me pause to just say, of course, the lines are open and the numbers to call, of course, in Studio 337-6940, 337-6940. And those of you who want to help us with our hamper, our Christmas hamper and toy drive, of course, and back to school as well, 336-6594, the other number, but the number to get me at right now and make your contribution if you so. Things are so nice and things are so pellucid and things are so clear and it's so conspicuous and so vivid that of course you want to hear more rather than of course to call. No, don't see it as interrupting me. No, I will of course pick up from where I left off, but I would love to hear from you as well, even if it is on this particular matter. So, and of course don't forget that we are not concerned about green verb and pink verb and yellow verb. No, you come as you are, and we will of course respond to you as we see it once of course we can understand what was said. That's all. It doesn't matter about the dialect, or it doesn't matter about the accent that you may have. All is required is that we understand what you're saying, and of course no obscenity. However, call 337-6940, 337-6940, and of course the one to get us at with respect, yes, that one that is coming in front of you now, 337-6940. You'll get me here right now. Pick up the phone, of course, and do that. And of course 336-6594, wherever you are, my assistant is standing by, of course, to take whatever contribution you wish to make, and don't forget, of course, like, don't forget, share. We are nearing the stage where we have to communicate with the leaders of the world, because of course we have to tell people what is happening in Trinidad and Tobago. And of course, very hilarious in that encounter between the Prime Minister and of course Fazil on TV6, when of course he asked him the question, well, why you put that man there? And if it is that I had lost all that billions of dollars in his family business, they would have run him from there. But Rowley, of course, instead reward the man by putting him on a steering committee, ironically on energy. Boy, oh boy. But eventually, of course, I want to say too that under so much pressure and the very ludicrous decision made by Rowley, always against the public's interest and taxpayers' interest, well, of course, Malcolm Jones, he resigned on his own volition because people were just upset with that kind of shenanigan and that kind of wicked, eaters criminal behavior, as far as I am concerned.
It's just another farce. He has absolutely nothing to contribute.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Is Mr. Malcolm Jones not involved in some advisory capacity on an energy committee of this administration?
Malcolm Jones is a member of I think a 16-man committee.
Why? Because I don't mean any disrespect. But if I made a decision that cost my family business $1 billion,
well, understand,
they would run me from there.
Malcolm Jones was part of a board of a management of a state enterprise.
He was chairman.
Yes, but you see, you say Malcolm Jones, we say the board of Petrotrin.
Change your tongue. Change your tongue.
Mr. Jones' presence on that committee allows us to get a certain kind of information, a certain kind of insight that because he was Petrotrin chairman, because that was only one of Petrotrin's businesses. Petrotrin is a multi-billion-dollar enterprise that
Big talk.
Mr. Jones managed for a long period of
Big
time.
talk, lofty talk.
Well, you could say that. Well, you could say that.
Yeah.
That is how the PNM deals with people. A certain kind of information, a certain kind of insight that because he was Petrotrin chairman, because that was only one of Petrotrin's businesses. Petrotrin is a multi-billion-dollar enterprise that's managed for a long period of time.
Or mismanaged.
Well, you could say that. Well, you could say that.
Yeah.
That is how the
Rowley
PNM deals with people. And that is how we dealt with Malcolm Jones.
People what? People who they prefer and rather? How we ain't deal? How we ain't deal with Kamala so? How we ain't deal with Adan Ramlogan and Ramdeen so? How we are trying to make up and trap them, a case against them? How we ain't do that? Yeah, right. And that is why the people in Tobago ain't fart on you. They ain't listen to you. They see you as a total buffoon and a betrayer of Tobago. And you want to go back there to live? No. You'll be living, as Warner say, Trinidad. It is Trinidad and Tobago. Kamala in Trinidad, Fali in Tobago, and you in the and between the Bocas and maybe a cloud, if you could put big stone and thing on top there to build something. Live way. They're not going to give you an easy time. Mark my words. You're too evil, wicked, nasty, and power mongering to be considered a Awi boy. You can't even rest part of your instep or your toes in Robinson's shoes. You have failed, you have disgraced, and you must go out in similar tone as a failure and in disgrace.
And if it is that there are people who believe that they would have dealt with it differently, and that is their option. We know how they dealt with it. We know what the outcome was. But I think for it to be a national conversation, that there's something that ought to be.
And he gone now philosophical, trying to shift the narrative, shift the thing to some moral disposition. Be careful about that. You hear Hines on that. They know what the problem is. He could tell you how much people killed and were killed and killed where and by what and how it is. That's the modus operandi. That is the stage at which Rowley reached now. Having not been able to convince anybody, and of course he was totally stripped of any moral or reasonable rationalization to get or to even consider him to be on a steering committee on energy. He now goes and talking of some philosophical. Rowley, your job is to prevent us and protect us from danger. You have put us in danger by your conduct, and that kind of hogwash will not suffice and cannot compensate.
Lauded in persecuting a person that they
go for
but I think for it to be a national conversation,
yeah,
that there's something lauded in persecuting a person who served this country in the way that Malcolm Jones has done. All that does is to ensure that nobody else of his caliber comes into the public service if they can help it.
The Leadership government went after Mr. Jones, took Mr. Jones to court. The UNC government, the partnership government, went after Mr. Jones, took Mr. Jones to court.
And that is a fact. They took him to court for his reckless and lack of prudency and lack of course, due diligence and fiduciary responsibility. That is what they did. And they have a right to protect the interests of you and I. That's what the UNC did. And he accepted that, he, Rowley. And of course, espoused by Roger. Yes, people. And he talked about, of course, he got philosophical and said that people like that will not be attracted to the public sector. Hogwash. Because look what he is doing to Fali now. He just hear about a tape that Fali was saying something and the whole police service gone there to deal with Fali. That's all. He heard Fali expose him in the THA assembly. He gone and taken out, of course, or taken the whistleblower to court. Yeah. Because he is infallible. He, Rowley, and immaculate. And nobody must talk about this evil son of a gun in the way that he, Rowley, speaks of others. Look what he has done, try to do to a former AG, and then Ram Logan, and of course Ramdeen, concoct a story and get the police to humiliate the men. Well, of course, you know, they come in at the treasury afterwards. You know that. Because the DPP withdraw the matter, or the matters. Because it turned out that Rowley and they concocted and colluded with, of course, Vincent Nelson to bear false witness and pay him $10 million. That is dangerous, that is evil, that is wicked. And he has the audacity, as he did in Tobago, to talk about don't fall in love with office. But he's still there. This hypocrite of an unlimited degree. But I want to tell you where I think they should be. I want to show you where I think Rowley and his head should be. And that we will come to the end because it's 11 minutes past 10. I think we start pretty early today. But I think we owe it to Rowley to let him know that we know who he is and that he will not succeed, and that he should be, he and his clan, he and his kleptocrats must be in a special place, and that place must be political grave, as we started.
Since you take over as Prime Minister, it's plenty pressure. We have to suffer, and you will do nothing better. Rowley really have to go. Oh, so Rowley really have to go. Oh, Rowley really have to go. Since you coming forward, you is a big failure. Collapse the economy and they do nothing for we. What you have to show, we don't really know. What you have to show, we
That's
don't
where they
really
should
know.
be.
Sorry, Trinidad and Tobago, but Rowley
Now, Latrin.
really have to go. Oh,
In Laventil, we call it a shit house. That's where they should be.
Oh, so Rowley really have to go. The crime rate is out of hand, they shooting up we blessed land. We need more protection, it's time to take some action. We living in fear, it's too much to bear. We living in fear, it's too much to bear. And the PNM don't really care. Rowley really have to go.
Now is the time! No! 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 The time is no! 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 The time is no! Now is the time to vote them out! The time is no! Vote! No! Hey! 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 What time it is? No! What time it is? No! What time it is? No! Now is the time for action! What time it is? No! What time it is? No! What time it is? No! Now is the time for action! Now is the time to cast your
Yes, indeed. Well, people, of course, we have come to the end of tonight's exercise. It was again a wonderful exhibition of information sharing, information delivery, and of course, further reinforcing not only what you already know, but of course, adding it to the bulk of knowledge about this despicable bunch of opportunistic political parasites that have, of course, not just captured, but have invaded, and like a typical parasite, take and have not been able to give, so we know, or give back, so we know that it is clear they are unfit for government and has been so from inception. Have a wonderful rest of the night. God bless, and don't forget tomorrow morning the ground report, Andy, Mike, and myself as we return. Are we returning tomorrow night? No. Once it's Friday, then it means therefore I will see you on Saturday and Sunday night. Have a wonderful rest of the night. God bless. Bye-bye. Yes, indeed.
That was a paid political.
Hello, everybody, listen to my song. The great Kamla Pasan Pisesa is the Lord around. Hello, everybody, listen to my song. Kamla Pasan Pisesa is the Lord around. Hello, everybody, listen to my song. Kamla Pasan Pisesa is the Lord around. Our great leader Kamala is a blessed woman. She would build back this country which has fallen very bad. Our great leader Kamala is a blessed woman. She would build back this country which has fallen very bad. The PNM administration, they didn't care a damn, but God would send back Kamala to protect our land. Hello everybody, listen to my song. Kamala Pasan Pisesa is the Lord around.
Since you take over as Prime Minister, is plenty pressure we have to suffer, and you will do nothing better. Rowley really have to go. Oh, so Rowley really have to go. Oh, Rowley really have to go. Since you come in power, you is a big failure. Collapse the economy and do nothing for we. What you have to show, we don't really know. What you have to show, we don't really know. Sorry, Trinidad and Tobago, but Rowley really have to go.